Hello, this is Creative Talks, a series in which we get to know people that are attracted by movement as a whole. Today I'm very happy to have here with us a creator, performer and dancer, Vittoria de Ferrari Sapetto. Welcome.
Hi.
Really glad to have you here.
Me too.
And thank you for the workshops that you gave to us. All the information was amazing. So
yeah, really thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to come in new places that I had never been before. I mean, I've been passing here, but I've never been teaching here, so it was really nice. Thank you.
Tell us how did you become what you are right now?
That's an interesting path. I grew up as an Italian, like my nationality is Italian, but I was born in Brazil, grew up in Italy and moved to Brussels 21 years ago. So my career also has been like evolving through these cities. Of course, when I was really young, I incorporate other information from Brazil. And my mom, she was dancing actually in the Carnival of Rio de Janeiro when she was pregnant of me. So I think something started there. Because actually when I turned into like normal dance, of course I did ballet and all this, but I've got really attracted by African traditional dance when I was 8. And I felt so confident with that, probably because of some rhythm that came, who knows, from Brazil. And that was really my kind of big inspiration at that time. And it became really like a profession, because at 15 I would be already professionally touring with a company.
At 15?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I was already performing with them a little bit when I was 8, but more like a mascot, you know, like a little white blonde girl.
A surprise.
And then it became properly like it was my profession. I mean, I was studying, but I really wanted to do that.
So you were in a high school dedicated to arts?
No. My studies were totally different. I studied literature, like I studied Latin and Greek. And
yet you still performed, you could...
Yes, well, I was really bad in school at that time, but yeah. I was actually, I knew dance was my way, like that was my voice. And I couldn't let go, so somehow, even if I had to study, I just spent all my energy as soon as I could into dance. And
it's always really interesting to discover a person that has so many backgrounds and roots. How do you feel about all these places that you've been to and grown into?
Yeah, it's actually, that's why for me it's always complicated to answer to the one, like saying who I am. Who I am, it's like, or where I come from. Like I really feel as a human that I really belong to all these places. Yeah. And all this different journey that I've been passing through, I collect information and it translates to my word now, to my vision, to the way I would deliver my information, the way I would imagine and create my work. Yeah, it just shows. And even when sometimes it's just happen in a way that you realize it only once it's done somehow, you know, like once you finish something and then you realize how much actually you have been influenced by all this.
Yes.
So it's not conscious from before, like you don't, like before was more like a hunger, like I was just hungry to understand and to challenge my body in different ways. And coming from in Italy where I grew up, it's Genova, which is a city, but it's not like a big city, it's not Milan, it's not Rome. We didn't have internet. So the whole information gets really reduced on what you have just in your surrounding. And so for me, everything was interesting. Everything that was related to movement, dancing, community dancing, because I was also doing some salsa sometimes, or more social dancers, or break dance. That's something that I've been constantly fascinated. When I was already 15, I would go and check these people out. They were rehearsing and doing their stuff in the street, so I could just go and see the similarities. So actually, something that was really fascinated about that moment in general, I found that was a really bubbling period. It was the 90s. the beginning of certain things that came, like breakdance was just arriving in Italy and
in Europe,
and African dance as well. Like I remember at 8 when I saw the first African people coming and doing djembe and teaching. I just like, yes, it was the first time in my life that I saw that. So it was kind of a bubbling situation, not only myself, like the whole community in that moment. So we would gather together, share practice.
I imagine.
So we were creating new styles. Like I was teaching my African moves, and then an hip-hop teacher would transform my African moves in more hip-hop style. And then the break dancers would come and integrate it in their beginning before going on the floor. They would integrate this movement. Yes. Basically, we were doing raga. Like it was something that raga is like a way of dancing that was really fashionable and started to be fashionable in Paris at that time. But we didn't know that we were doing that. Like we were just exploring. And then after some years, I passed through Paris. And then I realized it was extremely fashionable, and one girl was teaching that, and it was like a big star, you know? So like we, probably because we didn't have any...
access to information as now.
Yes, yes. So it was really like a clear sharing, like we were all in the same trip as a teenagers, and teenagers are really open we are sponges, we are ready to accept, and I was extremely open to other culture as well, because for me African dances was not only about learning the step, I was really living constantly with them, like eating, learning how to cook, sleeping in their places.
You get to know the world of the...
Yes, like you just got to, especially because it's a traditional dance, so you really have to understand how they function as a society as well, as a community, to understand why this happened. But I didn't question that, it just happened, like I just do it, you know, like you have this, I call it to be in the moment, like when you are somewhere as a performer, it's one of the best sensation when you arrive in a place, whatever it is, whatever job you are making it, you have plans, you have vision, but then you arrive and then you see what's going on. And everything can change just because of that. And you follow your intuition. I mean, I do.
That's like honesty to me.
Yes, just like you just let it...
immersed in the moment.
Yeah. I like to see myself as like a channel somehow. No?
A channel?
A channel, like of energy that I see, and then it passes through me, and then I translate it to something. And so I'm constantly in this... in between, you know, like I'm just in between. A
connector.
Yes.
You get things.
Yes.
Really interesting. Well, you said that you had this hunger when you were younger, right? So how does this hunger translate to more mature age? Right now,
yeah,
how
it's
do you
really
find
different.
This curiosity?
Yeah, it's really different. Before I was almost obsessed by understanding how my body functions, or understanding why I'm moving like this, why they move like that, why, and getting to know all this information was just like priority. So my mind would wake up and go already there, rather in my body, rather to certain knowledge of movement, and every kind of movement, like can be also sport. Like in a certain moment, I remember I've got injured. At 28, first time, big time, I broke my knee and I couldn't dance. And
20 or 28?
28.
28,
yeah.
Okay.
That was the big first injury. Yeah. And I always had problem, little, but nothing really major.
We get to ignore the pain, the everyday pain.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that was like clear. And then I understood that I still wanted to research on movement, but I couldn't do dance. So I started to swim, like fully. I was already swimming somehow before, but then I decided to really understand, to make it properly. So I would like even almost make timing and go like swimming like a competitor almost, you know, like, and really getting obsessed on understanding all the styles, you know, like. And yeah, I also became a yoga teacher at that time. Like
so many things.
Yes. But then, yeah, then I got back to dance actually. But the big transformation about what happened in my life was when I moved to Brussels. Because in a certain moment when I was in Italy, I understood what was there, the options. And I realized I wanted to have much more than that. Like I saw the restriction somehow. I saw that what was offering me Italy in that moment was not enough for me. And also I didn't want to compromise certain things because I didn't want to do just whatever commercial job to get money to survive. No, I was like, I want to go in a place where my creativity can be like blossom, but at the same time where I can share it. Because also what I felt in Italy was that people would just use you as a dancer and that's it. And nothing would go across that. Even if it was not commercial, even other things would be just like you learning steps and reproducing steps. And that felt too narrow for me. I already felt that I can explore much more and I can deliver much more about myself within the movement. So I started to travel. I went first in Paris because African dance was really good there, and it was, I don't know, somehow my connections were easier. With African dance, I was kind of speaking a little bit of French, so I was like, okay, let's try. I stayed really little. Like, after a few months, it was clear that that was not the place. It was kind of similar to Italy. Like, I didn't see really, I just saw a bigger possibility on a commercial level, but I didn't see the research that I was searching. And people were telling me to go to Brussels. And then I was like, okay, let's go to Brussels one day. So I just take it and go. And after 2 days, I already knew that was my place. It was so clear. Yeah, I remember I entered in Kai Theater from the back door because I get to know immediately 2 Rosas dancers. One is Romanian, Benjamin Bor, yeah. And him and Marta, they were together, and it was one of the first 2 people that I met when I arrived in Brussels, and they were Rosa's dancers. And they would just like, okay, just come and see drumming. They were doing drumming. Wow, first cast, like first time. They just opened the door from the back theater, and then I just entered for free. I was like, this is amazing, you know, you just arrive in a place, you don't know anyone, and you just get to know the past people, just like accident. So for me it was clear that was my place already just because of that action, you know. The universe sometimes chooses for you more than you. Like you have a wish, but sometimes things comes to you as well. And you have to understand and to flow.
I want to ask you something, in fact 2 questions about what you said. So first one, I was thinking, how did you feel when you get back to dance? These long pauses that you take from dance specifically. Yeah. Here we're afraid of leaving dance behind and maybe trying something new, because there's just so much necessity around. We need to dance because otherwise we feel lost, we feel like we have no job, we feel like we cannot invest time in something else. Especially now as youngsters, and with the pandemic and all the things that are happening around the world. So how did you feel about that? Where was your mind when you said, okay, I'm just gonna not dance like a couple of months and try swimming, or let's try something new, salsa instead of contemporary?
Well, for me it was quite clear that I always felt a little frustration. And that was for me the trigger to understand that something had to change.
Frustration about what? Exactly?
Frustration maybe because the job that I would get as a dancer was not what I wanted. Okay. But I still got a job. I should have been happy, but I was not satisfied because it was not the job that I wanted. Or I just realized how much the community of a dance community was so tough. I didn't study in any academy, so when I arrived to Brussels I had really hard time to get through that, because even if I get to know people like easily, doesn't mean that you can get jobs easily.
You needed a diploma or a certificate or something, or what?
Nothing. Like I didn't have money for that. Like I had to pay my study, like my dance education. My parents didn't want me to dance. So when I moved also abroad, it was just me decided to do it, and then searching for a job to survive and try to understand how to make still my dancing going on. Yes. So my days were long, like 16 hours. I had 2 jobs, and in the morning I would train because we had the possibility to have a professional training class every morning in Brussels. We always have that, really cheap community price. And that was the only price that I could afford. And then in the afternoon, in between my two jobs, I had 2 hours of my own practice, and that was precious. Like, it was the only time where I could work out and make my own knowledge. Like, I would practicing on things that I knew as to be better or to be understood or to clarify, or so I create my own practice, and I did it, and I was really strict. Like, no matter what, I would just come back and do this 2 hours.
That's really important.
Yeah. And then I just started to do auditions, and many times I didn't even get invited because I didn't have any real background somehow. You know, I was just writing African dance, and you know, that was mainly my background, like on a professional level. So they would not even invite me in audition. So I would just go anyway. It was still the time where the emails were in the beginning, you know, so you could still like, I literally physically went to the audition and say, okay, I'm here, can I join? And then, yeah, because we were many, but not as many as now somehow, you know, and then I would get jobs.
How do you just travel? How do you just change the country where you live? I mean, it sounds
when you are really young,
hard and easy in this sense.
Yes, somehow when you are young, it looks, for certain people, looks much harder. Actually, it's not, because you are so young, you are much more adaptable. So, yeah, I was not scared. I was excited. Yeah, but I think it's a personality. It's a matter of like, yeah, like for me it was actually the best, but I wanted to go by myself already when I was 12, if I could. Like, and the fact that my parents didn't want me to dance and all this make me even stronger on that matters. So when I was 15, I was already working, not going to school sometimes, to work, to get money, to pay my dance study, or doing whatever kind of performance around dance. On Saturday night I would be doing go-go dancing, or I would perform salsa with some friends to get in restaurants, you know, where you can get really easy money. Or I even did the cheerleader for a football team for the television in Italy once, you know. But with that money I could join like an amazing workshop in France. So where I got my first job as a contemporary dancer. So it's a constant game on challenging. Like, if you remain into your bubble, you can grow as a community, but there is always something that we need to push a little bit our boundaries. Like, as much as we do with our body, we have sometimes to go through that a little bit also with our mindset or our comfort zone. The comfort zone is really nice, and is really, and I think I have to thank a lot the Belgian government, because it gives us support. When we don't work as an artist, we get support financially from the government. So this is, for me, it's exactly this comfort that an artist need a little bit. It's like a clear backup. And out of that backup, then you don't have to sit down. It's the opposite. There is this support, then use it for what is the best out of it. Yes.
Yeah. That's a big challenge
Yes,
for us here, because
of course,
if the government doesn't help you, doesn't push you from behind a bit,
yeah, you feel lost. You feel lost, and you feel you have to do it. You have to start from scratch, and you have to do it by yourself.
Like, abandoning everything.
Yeah. But that's why we have community, and that's why when I came here, I enjoyed so much the energy here, because the idea of community that you are starting now to build is like, it's bubbling, really. I felt like there is a vibration here that in other places you don't have. And because of that, you can build up. Like, that's...
the community here feels like an undiscovered water, you know. There are many of us that have potential and desire to go further, try to build things, or try to go abroad, or just try to grow. But in the same time, because there is no support from the government, or like the minimal amount of support, and there are no spaces, the art, the contemporary dance is new. I mean, dance in general is new here, but contemporary dance is still a niche, you know. Only a certain people know of it, and maybe people they want to try, they don't quite understand it yet, or just don't like it, because you need to practice a bit your ability to see a show, you know.
Yeah, you have to educate the public.
Yes, and that's the
the hardest part.
Yeah, the hardest part. We keep talking about this. Like, this is the conclusion that we always arrive to. How can we change things here?
Yeah.
Because it's not a singular effort. We cannot do this like me, you, 5 people. No, we have to be a lot.
But when you start, it's like they call it network. Yes. So you start from, but you need a core that is really strong, motivated, and then from there you start. Yeah. And then you have a little community. But even the people that comes to discover contemporary dance in a workshop like we did this week, then they will talk about it to someone, and then maybe next time you will have the friend of a friend, and then these people will start to come and see your shows. But then if they enjoy, then they will invite someone else, and then it's spread.
It just requires time, and
a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of time, and most of the time before having a feedback backwards, it can take years.
There is this desire.
But there is no rush on this kind. Like, I know when you are young.
There should not be, yeah.
We should not be, and this is what, like, that's the main, I think, wall as an artist, that especially as a dancers, because we have a body that gets old, and we have to kind of condense our practice in this beginning of our year time, because otherwise after I cannot do it, you know. There is this like urgency, which makes it really interesting. That's why I think I left so easily at 20, you know. I didn't even think about it, because I was like, that's the time I have to go. I cannot wait 5 years here. It's like 5 years, it's a lot, you know, on a contemporary dance, but every dancers, I mean, our body gets, you know, used. So we have to use it as soon as we can. Yeah. But at the same time, I was so much in a rush that things were not coming exactly like I wanted, because of that reason. Because I wanted it too much, and then that energy also is not appreciated. Like, I would get jobs, I would get something going on, but I would not get what I wanted. And that's the reason why I also sometimes, I mean, the injury that I got was a kind of a
breakdown.
Edge.
Switch.
Yes, an edge where my frustration was starting to appear. Things were not going exactly like I wanted, so this happened. Then I could stop, lay back, think, realize what is needed, what makes me happy, what is important, what are the principles, what's all this questioning make you grow as a human. And then when I go back, I get back to dance, because after 1 year, actually my knee was okay. I missed dance, I started to dance again, but on a completely other state of mind. For me, it was really out of pleasure, because I missed it so much. And in that moment, everything came to me. Like, all the things that I wanted so badly before, they just happened.
When you stopped
after that
wanting them, they came.
Yeah. Right? So it's a strange, because I've been struggling for almost 10 years to get that. And then the moment when I loosen up, everything arrived.
Like in dance, yeah. How do you see dance right now? What is dance for you in this moment?
It's a roller coaster now. The movement practice has been so far, we pushed our body so far, we explored, I think, almost everything we can with our body. So
you mean as
a human, yes, as a physicality on what we can do, what are our limitations. When I see, like, even the breakdance, how it evolved from the 80s on what they do now, it's insane.
It's unreal.
It's almost like, okay, we are pushing our articulation boundaries, our strength, our dynamics, and
understanding of reading.
It's just, I think we are in a level where everything has been done. So, as an artist, I found now dance, it's one of the language, the most, I would say, the most difficult for appreciation from people, because it's the most cryptic one. You know, we don't use words really. There are movements that then can be abstract, so somehow can be really far compared to music or operas or all the rest, you know. But at the same time, because we work on another level of energy, we actually deliver much more information than maybe some other. Yes, it's something, we touch a different body parts and mindset on people, like, and we can bring this. I think now we need it even more, because we connect. When we watch a dance show or a performance show where there is movement based, we all get on a state, like the public and the audience, like, and the performers as well. There is something that is, we cannot reproduce it in any social form, like video, like you cannot even compare what is happening on real or in a camera. And this is something that, especially after the pandemic, people realize how different it is. So there is a strange thing, because somehow we get less money, we will get like a huge crisis in the economy in every level, so culture for sure will get a crash and all that. But at the same time, we value it so much more. So it's a kind of a counterbalance. I think it can be extremely interesting what is gonna come now. It's gonna be, I don't know, we cannot know where it's gonna happen, or if it's gonna happen, or in which exact moment it's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen. Because the change is there, and when something so big, the whole environment is changing so much, it's gonna be something for sure. It's up to us to understand what is the momentum and what is needed in that specific time. So I think our awareness has to come on just listening, watching, observing, and get the chance when it comes.
It feels like the more we advance technology-wise, the more we desire the humane in us. Like that's why I think that in the future maybe arts will be really, really valuable. Like will get precious, or they will get extinct. Like they will disappear somehow. I don't know.
For sure, there are big. Well, like we can all see these two lines, going from one side and another side.
And they go together.
Yeah, and I think they will be still there.
Yeah.
It's just that before these two worlds would always interact, and probably now these two worlds will be separate, but they will both grow. This is how I perceive it. And sometimes, you know, like we always tend to forget what happened before, and we always tend to forget what was history, what was philosophy, and mainly we are just repeating. There is a philosopher that I love, he's called Giambattista Vico, and he was talking exactly about this like cycle on histories and human behaviors and social problems, and we just repeat it, and we make the same mistakes, but we didn't learn because we don't get to understand the essence,
the real past,
the essence of our patterns. And once we get to understand that, it's already too late. So we just get in a rolling situation. But this is our, you know, and then you read the ancient Veda, and there is always this idea of a creator, a grower, and a destructor. There are always this free energy that constantly go one after each other. So as a movement base, we do the same. We have initiation of a movement, we enjoy the movement, and then there is an ending of a movement. So, and then we started again from maybe another movement or another whatever. So we are born and grow up and die. Everything has this three-dimensional cycle, you know, so we have to accept that and to follow it. So I think our knowledge in technology is getting somehow so high, but actually we are discovering things that has been done and discovered already like a million times back, because Veda is extremely ancient books, but they already wrote it. They knew it already, everything. So if you don't get to know this back, what we had before,
how can we prepare for the future?
Yes. That's why we have to, even if sometimes people tend to get a bit frustrated by learning ballet, learning modern, or learning like jazz technique, or things that somehow they are settled with names and they have a moment in history, but this moment is kind of past. So there is a codification of it. That is, for me, it's called already tradition. So there is a value. There is a reason why this was made in that time. And learning it, I don't see it as a restriction. I just see it as another tool, as much as martial art, as much as other kind of traditional dance. That's why, like, I think I'm really lucky that I started with this strong traditional African dance background, because it made me understand that in the end, what has been done from whatever tradition, it's extremely valuable for what is next. And for me, it was one of the best school I ever had, because I learned coordination, I learned strength, I learned community, I learned unisono, I learned solos, I learned how to cook, I learned how to, you know. So in the end, when I after get to whatever other kind of movement practice, I just function in the same way. I just apply the same principle. So it was just easier afterwards. And also the way how, for sure, also they deliver information is completely different. Like when I got my ballet teacher, the ballet teacher would ask me and express and explain every detail of my body, how I should feel. African dance, you don't have any explanation. You just have a rhythm, a person that dances in front of you, and you don't have mirrors. You just follow it, and you follow the answers of what they are doing.
But that's the fundamental of learning, like imitation.
That's the beginning.
Like
this is how we start when we are born. And then out of that, then afterwards, when I started to teach, I started to analyze what I was doing, because I had to explain it. But before that, I would just feel in it. Yeah, so I pass, like, I think we are all also different. We have different way of learning and approaching. For sure, instinct, I'm a really instinctive person, so I always experience. I try to experience, and then out of that experience, I will make my understanding. What I like, what I don't like, what I need now, what is needed for tomorrow, what is needed for in 2 years.
Interesting. Because of my abilities or inabilities, I don't think my body is really made for dancing. I'm pretty tight, you know, and robust. I had the opposite approach. I had to understand really good and go really far with the consciousness in what I'm doing, and only after that I could have gone intuitive and just let myself go. But I guess even here it is a cycle, because you can go from understanding to intuition, and then instinct to understanding, and the body changes as your mind does.
And your body also changes in relation to your brain. Like when you start to understand certain things, your body will also move different. Or flexibility is something that you achieve a lot when something also comes here differently. I have naturally a body that, yes, is really naturally a body that has a flexibility. So I always said, no, not so much tension on my joints. So it was actually the opposite. I had to work so much on strength, you know, because of Otherwise, I would not be able to keep it or to hold it or to, you know. So my life was then a struggle. It was really pushing and working hard because my body was needed that as well. So somehow what I was doing in life, what was my body also needed. And now it's a kind of a different approach because I've got many other injuries, many other situations. I've got a career as well. I've been working with amazing artists that I'm still thank all of them for what I am here now today. But at the same time now I'm like discovering a new word, which is the word through my eyes, which was not before, because before I was still dancing for companies, and even if you give your own vision a little bit, always you share and you co-create, but you're still belonging to a vision which is bigger and it's from someone else. And when I started to decide, okay, that's time now to take my bag again and start my journey, then the whole, also my body also changed a lot. And that is not better or worse, it's an evolution, and I enjoy, I witness that, and I really take a lot from you guys, from when I come and I work.
Interactions.
Yes, as soon as I started to teach, and then when I choreograph as well, because in the moment when I choreograph, finally I can materialize all my vision through you guys, you know, from people that are there for me, willing to do that. And I found this exchange already immense. Already just the fact that we are in a room and we have that possibility to just spend time and hours on researching something and try to make it happen in a way that it goes already beyond yourself. So the feeling of your body becomes is needed, but I see it coming from there. So then I fulfill completely my mind. So then my body feels also really happy.
Always fascinating to see how we adapt to different positions that we take. Either we be a performer or we take a class, and then we are a teacher, and then we are a choreographer. How does it change for you? I mean, you explained it a bit right now, but is it different when you are a professor, a teacher, and when you are a performer?
I mean, as a human being, I'm always the same, but my roles are really, they are different. And what I have to deliver or not, it's extremely different. But I like that a lot. Like if I only teach for a long time, I also feel I miss something else. So normally I try to kind of balance, like I like to teach and then I like to create sometimes. And still sometimes I like to go on stage, even if now it's a period a little bit where I want to be more outside. Like I feel the need to go sometimes on stage, not so many times, but sometimes still. Like this little adrenaline, I still need it sometimes. And I have to say, I like also that part of myself where I can just go from one to another, and I love to take class. I love to learn. I love to be a beginner. Like normally what happened in my life when I would feel this frustration that I felt the first time, if I arrive to that point where I start to feel a little of that, I know I have to get to know something new. So I will just discover, I will just go and search for a new class of something that would be interesting for me at that moment. And I would just start maybe a new martial art or a new traditional dance, or I make a trip. I take my time and I go in a place where I know I can find tradition and things that maybe here I don't find. When I travel to India, I always go and search for new vocabularies. And I was in Istanbul and I was really fascinated by the traditional dance that they had there, and I'm trying to get...
You mean the dervishes or?
No, the dervish I knew already, and actually one of my teachers in Genova is a dervish. So I encountered that quite early, even before moving to Brussels. I already knew about that, which was also interesting. No, it's really like a traditional, they have a really nice geometry, because it's quite a popular kind of like they jump a lot and everything, like quite with drums and everything, but the way how they use the space is a little bit different from other, and I would like to get to know that a bit more. So every time I travel for my job, because I'm teaching, then I get to know a new culture, and then I start to dig in the culture, and then I start to find things that I like, and then is where I end up doing it then.
I feel like this is the fruit of traveling, not only to go in a place and absorb a certain part of the whole culture, of the whole country, of the whole world that they live in, because sure, we can go and take classes in France and I just go back. But if I go there and, as you said, I try to understand the culture, I try to find vocabulary everywhere, not only technical word, but even spiritually, culturally, emotionally.
Food, that's experience. Everything that is related with senses, it's something that we experience, and I think that's the value, and that's how we grow and how we learn through that. So yeah.
Again, I think we're just so limited by time and money sometimes that we just cannot afford these things, and we have to limit ourselves to only choose one, and we miss a lot.
Yeah, I think when you have, for me, freedom is not about democracy, whatever. It's about when you can choose freely what you want to do, or when you have options. You always have, if you have options and you wake up and you have options, you are really in a lucky situation, and you can for sure advance because you have option. When you don't have option, you can advance, but it's harder, but it's possible. But it requires a certain inner strength that is not common, especially nowadays.
So, when was the time specifically when you started to get what you want in your career? And what people did you meet that really inspired you or stuck with you?
Yeah, I think my turning point was when I started to work with Jan Fabre. And I was 30, between 30 and 31.
So there's a long time ahead.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, things don't happen quickly.
We were many, many girls, and he was searching for one. We were 600, something like this. And then he chose me. I couldn't believe it. I screamed for 5 minutes when I got the answer. I couldn't believe it. But my life changed.
Well, the scream was...
Yes. And I was ready for it, it's true. And I didn't even want to do that audition, imagine. It's a friend of mine that
always happens.
pushed me and said, you have to do this audition. I was like, yeah, but I'm gonna do the same thing that I'm kind of already doing. Like I wanna do something else, or I wanna like try to get into another kind of work, and it happened, and I think it was like a really blossoming experience for me. Like I opened my vision 360. Like if before I would see certain things, suddenly I could see the whole spectrum. And he allowed me to perceive reality in a completely different way. Suddenly I could see through things. Before I would just get the first image on whatever, on life as well. And maybe dig a little bit on certain analyzation on society and human behaviors, but just little.
But how and why? I mean, how did this happen? Because of the relation with him? Or?
Just because the way how he built his work, because there is a dramaturgy, because he's searching, he's digging, he's asking about, like sometimes we have one task and we have to be creative with that task for quite a long time. And he would just mingle us in groups so that you would always get to work with different part of the company. And sometimes it was just like the communication in between the colleagues was just like rising. And then you would understand, actually I can read that task also on that matter, or on that level, or on that intensity, how to perform it, or how to bring it to another level of consciousness. And this completely opened up a new spectrum of colors suddenly. So after that, everything that I did after was amazing. And I changed radically also because the first job I had after Faber was Akram. I did the Olympics. Like such a...
Beijing or...
no, London.
London.
Yeah, in 2012.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I think the most extreme thing that you could do, like from performing for Jan Fabre to dancing for the opening of an Olympic game. It's just like the opposite.
And how much have you worked with Jan Fabre?
I did one production full on.
One production?
Yeah, but it goes on tour, like it takes like 1 year and a half, 1 year, something.
You still play?
No, but I did some other research, and actually now I'm gonna be the artist in residency in the space in the museum theater of Jan from next year for 4 years. So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a big.
Hope you have a nice journey.
Yeah, I hope so too.
So just one piece. I don't know. Usually, maybe I was expecting that you would say that you worked with him for a long time and you had time to discover all these things. But I guess it was so powerful that it just
somehow there is something extremely special also on how we go through our careers. Like certain dancers, they enter in a company, they like the work, and they need to stay for longer time for different reasons. Rather to get it better, rather because you feel really confident, rather because you get in a comfort zone. There are many aspects of it. And the way I've been traveling before arriving to Jan was already so complicated that when I arrived there, I think I was like a sponge, and I got certain things. I didn't get the whole picture for sure, like it takes years and years. But at the same time, I knew that for me it was good to be there, but not to remain there for too long. I had the chance, and I felt something also really interesting on the dance community, because people knew that I was existing in Brussels. But somehow, I would work, but somehow no one would give me the real trust. As soon as Jan Fabre gave me the trust, everyone wanted to trust me. So I felt it's the time. I have to take this opportunity. If I remain in one thing, maybe I'm gonna become extremely good on that, but I will close up many doors that I also want to go through. And my human being is so curious, and I want to challenge myself all the time. So I decided to challenge. And I did immediately audition for other things. And I did audition for Akram, and I got the job. And then I did audition for Larbi, and I started to work for him. And then I worked for Damien Jallet, and so on. And then I end up inside Le Ballet L'Abbé with Quan. And then I end up to Romeo Castellucci. And it just like, it went on a journey. And every time I was so happy to have been changing my environment again and understanding, like every time I would see the beauty of being in a company, and I would see how much this beauty for me, it's really important and valuable, but not too long. Like not until the point where you start to get the dark side of it.
Just so you can cherish the moment.
Yes, I have a feeling that I just got the best out of it every time.
But that takes courage, right?
Oh, a lot. Because you have to
try something new.
Yeah, you are always a freelance. It means that maybe I'm not working. But as I said, as soon as I got the work of Jan, it was the period that I got support as an artist from the Belgian government. So I knew that if I don't work, I have a little money income coming, so that I could pay my rent and my bills and my food a little, you know. It changed your life. Then I was feeling, with that support, now I can express and I can go and search and challenge. But also, everyone is different. I also saw different situations where the people would sit down and say, well, now I have this help, then I'm gonna choose exactly what I want to do. Like, if it's not the one that I want, I'm not gonna go for it. And me, I felt it more as no, that's an option for me to go and discover, and not to myself again choose so much, but somehow try and things came to me. Actually, the one that I wanted came to me. So I think it's a bit of a state of mind how you how you enter into your work, and and I think it was for sure. I feel blessed. I'm extremely feeling that, like, every day. Like, there are so many reasons where I can see the beauty of my life and the richness that I'm having every day. It's impressive. So I try to get it fully, because it's so good and so incredible, then I have to use it. Like, it's almost like a need, you know, like I cannot just let it drop. I have to understand all this and to make it and transform it into my vision then.
I guess that's the healthy way of doing things, even if they are difficult sometimes.
Yes, it's more difficult because I don't want to have so much support by a government.
You don't want that?
Not so much. Like, it's always, this was always my little duality. Like, of course, like, to have an idea of having support by a government, it means you build up your company, you build up a clear stability. But my life, I didn't choose that life. I didn't, even if I had a relationship and everything, I didn't choose family, for instance. It's not, I don't see that on me. My family is my dancers or my kids when I go and I teach, and it becomes like a family. For me, every time I cherish a new place where I'm working, that becomes family. And I deal with them in that way. So I take care of my environment as a family. So being supported by one government means stay on one bubble, and again, it's like staying in one company for long. Like, there is a beauty because there is a support. During this pandemic, the company would be supported by the government. I didn't have that support. I had the normal support as an artist, this income that Belgian government give you every month, but I didn't have the support of my colleagues' company, that they have a company properly, you know? So it's the double side of it. And you know, maybe sometimes you have no jobs, and it's like that as well.
What do you do when you have no jobs?
Oh, for me, this is the moment where I research the most.
Research
it means that normally I practice.
You book a studio and you just research, or
yes,
you practice every
day?
day?
Rather I have a place where I go and I research physically, like a dance space where I go and I research, or where I gather information, new information. So I will go and take classes or master class of something, you know, like.
But you don't have the money, like, to take classes a lot and.
I mean,
let's say we don't have the money.
Yes, what I'm trying to make as much as possible is exchanges. Like, right. I was telling Noah that I was exchanging with a pole dancer, the champion pole dancer in Brussels. We get to know each other, and for sometimes we were sharing practice. So she would teach me, and then I would teach her. Or when I go, like now, for instance, I was in India, and with my Indian students, I was like, okay, I'm here. Let's get a collective practice. Every morning, each of us give class.
Nice, yeah.
So I would take class from my students there as well. And some of them, they come from only martial art background. They can only teach that. Great.
I feel like this exchange is so critical to the development of the community. And I long for that. And it doesn't really happen here because we're spread. We know each other, we work with each other, but our research lies only within the work. And I think we should learn how to extend ourselves outside of the work per se.
Yeah.
So how do we train? How do we research? How do we communicate? How do we try new things?
I often also, for instance, break dancers are always also really inspired on that matters because they meet up. And they meet up and often in the street, so it's easy. Like last year with the pandemic, I couldn't go, I couldn't travel, so I just train with break dancers in the street. Of course, I'm not a break dancer, but I can just be next to them, and the place where they rehearse, it's always lighting properly, so it's perfect for me.
And that's a cultural thing again with the breakdancing, right? because that's how it formed, from the need to express and share
and to save themselves, because
yes.
otherwise they would end up doing something that was not really amazing, probably for a human being, because that was also the time. But the fact that it's in the street, people can stop and watch, and then they realize that actually there is a huge potential out of that, you know. And then it became what it becomes now. Like it's almost somehow it's almost more supported or more broad used than other kind of dancing.
Yeah. It is a milestone for them to have in the Olympics. Even if they don't like it, it still helps them a lot to grow as an image.
And whatever city you go, you can always connect with breakdancers from the place, because they, for sure, they go and they dance somewhere. Here, there, every time I go somewhere. As much as when I practice Aikido or Kinomichi, in the place where I go, I always search if there is a dojo where I can go and practice with them. So, or if I know there is a place where I can practice Sistema. When I go in Canada, the best ever teachers are there. So when I go in Canada to work, then I always go in the night to train with them to do Sistema. And these people, they even ask me, like, they know who I am. They didn't even ask me money. And I was almost embarrassed by that. But because they know that I'm a dancer and they know that I'm experimenting and researching and I'm there for a certain reason, they don't charge me. Yeah. But you know, that's also something about relation humanity and the value. When human beings gather together and they honestly share something, the money, it is important because we have to pay bills, but somehow if we are on that matter really, and we are truly connected to that, somehow we find a way to exchange. I trust a lot that, even if I don't think is the way his economy is gonna go, because it's really going somewhere else, but is how the human function. And if there is a crisis where we don't have money, then we have only exchange. So.
Going back a bit, I wanted to ask you, how would you define a good creative process? Like when you work in a process, what do you expect from the choreographer and what do you expect from the team? When is it really
well, it changes a lot. It changes a lot if you are a dancer or if you are yourself the director. That's also
right. Let's say you're a dancer for now, and then you can tell me.
Well, as a dancer, you want to be challenged and you want to go in places. You want to discover new facet, new face of yourself as a creator or as a performer. So rather is something that you feel the challenge physically. So when you go on stage, you will experience physically something new, or you want to have a challenge on the creation process where you will start to work and create in ways that you never did before. So as a dancer, I think that's one part of what people would like to, but also it can be also different things. Can be also like some people, you know, you don't always work for the best choreographer that you choose.
Yeah.
So you see the limitation maybe on your eyes, you see things that maybe you don't accept, but still you are a professional dancer, so you have to do it, and you do it, and you do it as best as you can because you go on stage, so you have to defend it. Yeah. But on that matters, what counts the most is your colleagues. Like half of my career is what it is because I had great colleagues. Like my colleagues was so inspiring. So I learned from them, and the driven that I got from them was way much more than the choreographer, maybe statement or task or something. Like I learned from them and I grow as a dancer because of my colleagues. Yeah. Sometimes it's one, sometimes the opposite, it depends. Or sometimes it's the fact that you go on stage so many times. Sometimes maybe you choose a job, you get into a job that you're not really liking it, and maybe even the colleagues are not so inspired, but maybe you have like 100 shows. And it's extremely interesting to do the same show so many times because you have to find different layers and you are on stage, you are performing. So that's why I also like breakdance in some ways, because when you research, you are in the street, people can always come and watch. So there is always an immediate respond. And dance, it has something that is, it's a celebration not of our egos. We have to think that dance is a way to express something, so we need public. We need audience all the time, I think. Otherwise, we can always dance in our room and enjoy ourselves. That's amazing, and it's extremely needed sometimes, but then I'm dancing just for myself, for my ego. It's my celebration of my ego, which is amazing. We also need that. But if we are talking about creating, it means we are delivering something. It needs an audience, and we need to circulate this energy. Like, a show is made to go to an audience, and the audience respond to it. So this is, again, it's a circle that has been done. As a choreographer, it's totally different.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that.
Yeah, as a choreographer, you are satisfied when the process you are going through, like, you have a vision. So you want to reach that vision, but you have options. And when the energy of this option just come across, and sometimes they take even over your vision somehow, and it becomes even something different, but somehow fed by all the others. I kind of like that. Like, when I feel that there is this information, not only my own information, but I have all that information coming towards my path. And when I see that my whole dancers, they find something for themselves. When I see this already, it means that the creation process is appealing for everyone and is bringing something to everyone, for myself and for them. Then I'm already on a good trip, let's say. Then, of course, I always feel and hope that when I go on stage, my question will go through my audience. But at the same time, sometimes maybe it's not happening, but while you do the process, you feel it when the process is happening. And even if maybe it's a matter of taste, maybe the audience doesn't like, or they like a lot or whatever, but they see the process. Like, they see the value of what you have been doing, and this you feel it already in the rehearsal. Like, when there is something really exchanging already through your dancers, and the energy level in between is rising, you are doing something, you are on a track. And then as a delivering information, or like the aim that I have, it's more of questioning. Like, I don't want to give any answer to my public, I want to question my public. Because I think this is, I have time to question myself because I'm doing this job. I have time to listen, to be still, watch, observe reality, society, what is happening. A normal person has no time for that. So I have the time to question. So this question, I bring it to my audience. I think this is the most precious part. That's why now we are so important, no? Because otherwise no one is questioning. And then what is that then, if we don't question? It means we just act without any consciousness.
Mindlessly.
That for me is really scary. I scare more on that than not having money.
So, what is your next step now? Where do you go to? I mean, not really physically, but where do you see yourself?
That's, I mean, this is now what is going to be my life these next 4 years. Is going to be the first time that I say yes to stick with one theater for some time, having the space, which is that space. Physically is going to be in that place for at least 2 months, because we are going to be 4 artists sharing the theater. So I know for 2 months I'm there.
Are you ready for such an experience?
I think now I'm ready, and I think I say yes because at this point Jan is passing through a process of life which is not an easy one, and I'm basically going to be the new generation. Like it's really coming from scratch. The situation there is like a blank page. So I know that I can start to write my page, and that's why I say yes. Because I don't like to write where it has been written so much before, because then you don't feel free. And as my life, I've been building my life in such a way that I want to keep that kind of freedom inside of myself. So I have a hard time on doing certain kind of compromises. That's one of the reasons why I don't ask money for a company based, or it's because I want to still keep this aliveness, and this is, I know this makes my creativity ongoing. And my scare and fear is if I stay too much on a structure, I wouldn't have the same possibility of creating as much as I'm now imagining and visioning. And I also like not to have schedule on creativity. Like when you start to have a lot of support, they ask you to be creative every year, something new. And now with these 4 years, till now no one really asked me to be creative on something new every year, so I take it step by step. I have already some ideas on things that I already been researching before that I'm gonna do it there. And let's see, maybe the same project I can share it in 2 years, you know, or maybe the same project is gonna be for 4 years. Like this I still don't know, like, and I would like to still have the freedom to see what's going on and see how it's gonna be. If I started to have like a timeline or a time frame, then I will have to fight for that and see. Maybe it's also good because it's something new. Maybe it's gonna also cherish something new on myself. So I'm extremely excited. Extremely excited. Should be, yeah? Yes, extremely. But at the same time, super scared, and that's why I love it.
That's good. Yeah. That will make you grow again.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Both the workshop and this dialogue were, in fact, enriching. And I hope, and we all hope, we're gonna see you again.
Yes, I hope so too.
Good luck in your travels.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.